The pick is in.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have made a selection in the 2024 NFL Draft. Alongside Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin, I'm Tanisha Batiste. And alongside us, we have Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars to break down the Jaguars selecting Maason Smith with the number 48 pick. So, Tony, what's the biggest thing that Jacksonville saw in this LSU Tiger to make him a part of the franchise?
You said the operative word, big. Trip Balky loves big people. He loves those traits. And Maason Smith, all 6'6", 300 and some odd pounds of him, he fits the bill. They wanted to address the physicality this offseason. Well, they've gotten a bunch of wide receivers, and they got one center. They did get one other defensive tackle, but it's DBs. It's all over the place, and you can't really address physicality unless you go wholesale in the trenches. So now you add Maason Smith to Eric Armstead at 6'6", 300, 6'7", 295. Now you start to look a little different in the airport, and maybe that translates to the field.
Indeed, indeed. And we know Smith was someone who had some challenges in terms of injuries that plagued him and maybe some off the field challenges there as well. But there's a lot of upside there. Why do you think the Jaguars said, hey, we'll take a chance?
He's just a 5-star talent. And, you even saw Devontae Sweat go earlier, or Tavondre Sweat, with all the trouble he went through. Let me tell you how these coaches think, man. They will stand on the table for Hercules, okay? And if you watch Game of Thrones, you remember the big old dude with the mask. You never saw what he looked like. The dude just killing people. There's always a place for somebody who will just wake up and choose violence every single day in the National Football League. And that's what it's all about. It is about just getting the talent and thinking that your program can fix all of it.
Indeed, indeed. And he's a good kid and he's a smart kid as well. For more on the Jaguars, subscribe to Locked On Jaguars on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So, Spencer, obviously, Smith saw a lot of very formidable offenses playing in the SEC. But what about him makes him special enough for the Jaguars to say, hey, we want him to be a part of this interior defense and this defensive front for us?
Well, first, I love that Tony just gave us a Gregor Clegane reference here. I mean, that's peak draft content as far as I'm concerned. But Smith, a guy who has had some injuries over his college career, and he just brings an element of length to the defensive tackle position that you don't always see. And clearly the Jags are going in that direction, because you look at Eric Armstead, who they brought in this offseason out of Oregon many years ago, 6'8", and you just don't see a lot of D tackles that have that sort of size. Typically, guys that are a little taller are going to be a little bit leaner so they can bend around the edge and get around tackles. But, having length and size on the interior is what makes Smith such an intriguing prospect, and a guy who I think, if he's able to stay healthy, makes an impact for the Jaguars really, really quickly in the NFL.
For continuing coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft, subscribe to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.